Platforms now. Over to you, Ritvika, from here on.
Good evening, everybody, and very good morning to Rahul Avasthy, who is joining us from Chicago, US. I think after this introduction, I don't need to introduce that distinguished panelist, but today we have gathered here to talk on a very, very topical and important issue facing everyone today. Uh, the emerging pharma sector, the challenges and prospects. We have a really very, very distinguished and illustrious panel. My only connection with the pharmaceuticals industry, if I may say so, is limited to being a patient. As and when I fall ill, that's the only connection I have with the pharmaceutical industry. But thank you, INT, Indusnet Technology. Thank you, Abhishek. I mean, it's a real honor, and I'm being slightly nostalgic also because this time INT is associating with Economic Times, the brand where I started my career almost 3 decades ago, even while as a college student. So a lot of fond memories when I used to go. My college days got over, and then I used to run to join my professional career there at Economic Times. So that's a kind of fond memories that I have with ET. So before getting into more details, since we have such a distinguished and illustrious panel, I think we should get straight away into the topic and start with initial introductory remarks from each one of you. Since we are going through this situation, I mean, if you go to any of the search engines, the mostly searched topics or was is 100% pandemic, COVID-19, etc., etc. So all of us must be knowing that how this has impacted the entire economy, the entire industry across the globe. Healthcare sector being one of the most uh, severely affected or impacted industry, I would say. So my first questions to all of you to kick off the discussion would be, how do you see this COVID-19 pandemic affecting the healthcare or pharma sector, and which are the key takeaways from this experience? Maybe I will start with Mr. Jain, Sudarshan Jain.
So, good evening to everyone, and
Yeah,
Ritviki,
good evening.
thank you very much to be part of this panel. We have got a very distinguished panel with Rahul being there, Abhishek is there, and OP Singh is there. As you rightly said, that COVID-19 is the biggest humanitarian challenge which the humanity is facing, and this is a great opportunity to assert India's position. The Prime Minister of India rightly said that Indian pharma industry at this particular moment is not only a threat to India but to the world. And I would like to congratulate every member of the Indian pharmaceutical industry who is making difference. I say so because we are having the stringent lockout, more than 5 months. We have logistic problems, we have all kind of problems, but we are pharmacy to the world. Every third tablet in US is sold from India. Every fourth tablet in Europe is sold from India. So we were conscious of the fact that we have not got only responsibility to India but to the world. And this is the time Indian industry has responded to the challenge and made sure that the medicines are available around the world. Uh, we are we are proud of the fact that despite all the challenges, I talk to all the people around the world, WHO, US, and everywhere. None of the places, not only in India, the medicine is available. So the greatest thing which we can say today is that we have made medicines available around the world. Second thing is, at this particular moment, we have also made available repurposed drugs, which are making difference to the world, whether it is remdesivir, it is supplied from India, whether it is favipiravir, it is supplied from India. We are doing work in vaccines. 60% of vaccine production takes place from India. So whatever happens in the world in the field of COVID, India will continue to play a very important role. And this is the time for the Indian industry to rise to the occasion. Indian industry has risen to the occasion. And we are all proud of that particular fact. I will stop here and leave it to other panel members, distinguished panel members, and I'll come back next time. Thank you so much, Ritik.
Thanks for such wonderfully positive note in this otherwise overall gloomy situation. I would now go to Mr. O.P. Singh with the same questions. What will be your introductory remarks on what could be the possible takeaways from COVID-19 experience?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Ritvik. And after Jain Saab's remark, actually nothing is left, honestly speaking, because he has talked with data. And when you speak data, it speaks of its own. It's true that such pandemic is not going to be tackled without the support of Indian pharmaceutical manufacturer. As he rightly mentioned, each third tablets in US and fourth tablet in Europe is manufactured by Indian pharmaceutical companies. And that's kind of, this is the capabilities built, of course, over the years. And most important point, what Jain Saab mentioned about repurposing of the drug. When you talk about the vaccine, it's going to take time. And that, of course, no one can wait and allow death to continue. But the most important point, like, when it comes of repurposing of the drug, he mentioned about the statement, and I'm going to talk about the molecule. He said about two molecules. First is HCQS. You have seen the news like, Modi ji was being appreciated by the Bill Clinton, and he was talking about India has helped us. And many countries, they were looking forward towards the support from India. And I'm just trying to say that HCQS was not meant to be treated and offered for COVID, but that's one of the first invention, or you can say realization of the medical fraternity across the globe, that we should give it and control the disease spread or control the hypersensitivity of the immune response, control the immune response to be very precise. Similar drug like remdesivir, tocilizumab, and in fact, you can say talk about ivermectin, which has anti-deworming drug, dexamethasone, it was in steroid, and whatnot. And I think if I have to mention about the most of the drug, I think the manufacturing capabilities is one of the best in the world, which only India can meet the global requirement. Of course, we are the one, I have to take care of first of my home. But when it comes to the support to the world in this pandemic, India has really played a major role. And as a Cadila Pharmaceutical, in fact, Jain Saab must have missed it out. We have one drug which was invented 10 years back, Mycobacterium W, which was the research drug of CSIR. Jain Saab, if you recall it,
Yeah, absolutely.
was offered for leprosy treatment and tuberculosis. And just 3 months before, we got an approval for treatment of sepsis. And this drug is being repurposed for the treatment of COVID. And many lives are being saved because it is an immunomodulator. So in short, the point what I'm trying to say that COVID has really shown a way to think differently. Force the researcher, medical practitioner to think differently. And there are many drugs available which can be repurposed and used, though trials are on, and maybe it will be officially is going to be approved. So I personally feel that COVID, yes, taught us a lesson. that science is going to play a major role across the globe, not the commerce. And that is proved. That's what I can stop here.
I was just going through the different profiles that were sent to me for introducing each one of you, which I didn't use, of course, because Jain has made my task very simple by showing that lovely video. But I was just going through that in Rahul Avasthy's CV. One thing is very important mentioned there. That he has been a problem solver. So what could have been a more problematic than this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic in recent past? So I would like to go to Rahul Avasthi and find out your views, your take on the whole issue.
Of course. Thank you, Ritvik. And it's such an honor to go after such a distinguished panel. So thank you, everyone. Well, I think you said nicely about problem solving, right? And what the exact core focus has to be in the entire COVID-19 environment. I think the first stuff is the core focus and has to be about the people, because it is people who do that problem solving. And and any pharma company or any healthcare company has a very diverse set of people, right? So you have your customers, employees, patient, HCPs, partners, stakeholders, supply chain, and those are the key things. So where would you do the problem solve? First of all, to solve the problem, you first have to understand what the problem is. And how would you understand the problem? You would understand the problem if you can find some early warning signals. These early warning signals are everywhere. I think today a lot of panelists will talk and discuss more about it, but it is all about how do we act upon them. Like one of the things I want to mention about is something called time spent on ethical scientific education in this COVID-19 times. Because, we all can expect a massive face-to-face reduction in the physical engagement with the physicians. But how can pharma company and healthcare company ensure that that does not reduce the amount of ethical scientific education that we all do? Digital, of course, will play a huge role in the problem solving because you have to give personalized, timely response to physicians, to the healthcare practitioners. You also have to enable peer-to-peer education. You also have to continue your CMEs. One of the key things you also have to look as early warning signal is because of COVID-19, the scientific collaboration should also not decrease because a lot of scientists and employees are working from home. And me being in a digital part, let me throw some digital angle to it. Is that do you have all the pharma companies in different parts, and they are very small to large enterprise? Do they have the right permission of their softwares for their scientists to kind of work remotely? What kind of licenses it kind of support? I think another key thing is how do you solve the problems in terms of patient engagement, especially when you're going for a clinical trial. When you're engaging people for the trial, how you are retentioning them, how the medical adherence is kind of going as well. And a few more things I would say, which sticks in my mind, is training. I think, because everybody is remote, this training was never planned to a lot of people. A lot of people are not millennials. A lot of people are not used to computers the same way you and I are. For a lot of people, Zoom would be the first time to be in this pandemic, maybe sometime in March or February or April. So how do we make sure a sales team, a Salesforce team, everybody is understanding about the training? And I think few things we have to look, and this is so important because in any typical pharma project, right from medical, legal, regulatory, to supply chain, to marketing, design, customer experience, there's so many stakeholders around it. So it's very, very important on how do we look at that. And a final thing I would say is, how do you solve problem by automation? There are a lot of things we just keep on doing every time, which now simply can be solved by automation. So we can increase our productivity. Look, when this pandemic struck, nobody thought that we would be going to Zoom calls, doing all this, and basically there are tons of other things that we are doing right now. How can we solve all those things by automation is, I think, a very, 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 very key part. And I would end that note is, this is the time that we all have to recalibrate, we have to reprioritize, and we have to realign on what our problems are and how can we solve for it. So we don't focus on symptoms, but we really focus on the end problems.
Thank you so much, Rahul. We also have with us Mr. Abhishek Rungta, the charming and effervescent young man. His Corpcom department may have given a long profile of him, but for many of us who know him personally, he is like the boy next door. I mean, he's so accessible, down to earth, and it is Mr. Rungta who has brought us together all here. So I'd like to go to Mr. Rungta with the same question, because you have been a technology architect in all these years. So taking a cue from what Rahul has said, if you just give your take.
Thank you, Ritika. So I think I have been more of a technologist rather than a pharmaceutical industry person. But this industry has intrigued me a lot, and I have always, my objective has been how can I match the real industry problems with the digital side of things, which I have been doing for 22 years. And almost for last 15, 16 years, I have been more of an insurance guy and a banking guy rather than in pharmaceutical. But around 3 years back, when I got my hands dipped into the pharmaceutical industry, I kind of found it quite fascinating because it kind of imbibes the complete life cycle, starting from research and science on the top, until the last mile distribution and feedback collection, at the ground level. This means that it is something that is being researched in the most coveted lab somewhere, and then it is being consumed by the person who is even sitting in a small, makeshift home near the on the footpath, right? So everybody consumes it, but very few people makes it, and there's a huge ecosystem which is very intriguing for me, starting from research to manufacturing to distribution to marketing, and again within the constraints of and the professional boundaries that this industry has put together, which is very understandable. And I think with the COVID situation, digital is going to be a very, very critical element in pulling up the any industry, in fact, not just pharmaceutical, but I think it will play a big, big role in pharmaceutical industry, because I think pharma industry has to operate at a much higher rate in terms of production rate, and you have to work overtime, and the resources and everything are the logistics are going to get hurt. So it's kind of a situation where you have to create efficiency in your processes. You have to create a lot more innovation in the way things were done in past. Another interesting part that I see in pharmaceutical industry is that you have a lot of last mile people working in the industry. And the topic that Rahul touched upon just a few minutes back is that how do you educate them? So micro learning is something which is going to be very, very critical in days to come. How can you upgrade on a real-time basis the entire workforce which is out in the field, right? They don't have time to really go and learn in a large training facility, right? If you put them on a 2-hour video session or even such webinars, right? In today's world, the millennials don't have the patience to sit through such webinars. They don't have patience to go through 2 hours training course, right? So you have to bring into micro learning, which is like a 1-2 minute micro learning, and then you basically let him do something else. And then you again kind of test him that he learned that subject or not. So I think micro learning will be a big, big trend going forward for the vast, the workforce that pharma industry employs. Second area which I think will be very critical in pharmaceutical going forward is basically the flow of data from top to bottom and bottom to top. So when you want to make sure that all the information goes down without any tampering to the last person in the supply chain, and that is very, very critical, and to understand that how it reaches to that point, and then also collection of data from the what I call the moment of truth, where the product hits the consumer. The collection of data from the moment of truth back to the scientists and the researchers, so that that information can be used. So earlier, I think sampling was definitely done, what I understand from the system, but I think the sample size can become very, very big. A lot of interesting insights will come, a lot of interesting learnings will come. This whole ecosystem is going to be disrupted in a big, big way. And as a lot of times I come from this technology industry, and we have a saying that a particular industry may not decide to get digitized or may not like to become a technology industry, but ultimately technology companies will definitely go into every industry. And that we have seen in banking, neobanks have come. You have seen in insurance. Why is this happening? So I have a small theory about this from my side. And the theory is that, in the traditional industries, the knowledge bank is available. There's a lot of knowledge from people who have been in these industries for years and years, right? But for them to adapt technology can be very complex at times. But technology company can always bring in that knowledge into their realm, and they can actually disrupt the whole game because they understand technology. And therefore, it becomes very important that industries and companies and what I call the real businesses, they understand technology in depth, and they understand how to separate noise from signal, and they focus on the signal and do those very important projects and take those very important decisions to make their industry and their business future proof. That is my overall broad thought process around what digital can do on the pharmaceutical industry. But of course, it's a huge subject, and I would like to spend more time in learning from the stalwarts rather than speaking on this.
Both micro and macro learning, actually.
Yes, absolutely.
Not,
Great point.
uh, in fact, Abhishek reminds me of that famous saying: "If mountain doesn't come to you, Muhammad must come to you." So technology is like that proverbial Muhammad who would go to the pharma industry, pharma sector, and let them adapt and embrace technology. So there, I mean, from all of your initial deliberations, there have been more questions than one. But I'd like to, since we have two legendary figures from the pharmaceutical industry, Mr. Jain and Mr. Singh, I would like to go to them. You have raised very pertinent points like the India's capability of manufacturing drugs, medicines, and then repurposing of drugs, etc. So I'd like to go to Mr. Jain and ask him, given the current situation when work from home is like the new normal, I mean, people are not being allowed to reach out to their workplaces. So how are the pharmaceutical companies gearing up, or how should they gear up? I mean, tackling this problem, because R&D is one of the most important division or verticals in any industry, but in pharmaceutical industry in particular. If I can have your views on that.
So you raised a very important point, Ritikji. The whole work environment has changed. So if I'm in Bombay today and I work with all the CEOs, we meet every day. We used to meet 5 months, 6 months, 3 months. We used to meet all top CEOs of pharma company every 10 to 10:30 every day. It is impossible to imagine this, but we approach that, and it is covered by IIM Ahmedabad in the case study. If Rahul comes to Bombay now, he will never realize what Bombay is today. No trains working, no public transport. I was debating in the afternoon, when will the office open up in Bombay? No one can predict. We were talking to Venu Ambeti, when will the office open? Abbott chief, no one can say, because unless public transport happens, nothing will happen in Bombay. Having said that, work from home is now a norm, and some of the people and the critical role which HR will play today. What in 2000 and 2010 technology and financial people played, HR will play at this particular moment of time. And we at IPA are doing a lot of work, future of work. We did study with BCG, where we said how the work environment will change, whether it is commercial excellence, interaction with doctors, because today the typical thing is everyone is afraid of everyone. Patient is afraid of doctor, doctor is afraid of patient, right? So fear has become the norm in today. We don't want to
be working with Boston Consulting.
Yeah, BCG is doing a lot of work with us. 3 parts we have done. One is the commercial organization. How will they change? The interaction of doctor with patient, the interaction of management with the team, say field force team. The only thing which has grown in last 5 months is Zoom and virus, right? The market capitalization of Zoom used to be around 100 million. It has become now 15 billion, right? Apple has gone on to become $2 trillion company. So one, we are saying use of technology, the kind of thing which both Rahul and Abhishek were talking, education of the field force, education of everyone. So commercial excellence, the means of interaction of doctors will change fundamentally. And what we need to do is keep patient at the center of everything. What are the patient thing, and align everyone in the organization to meet that. The hierarchy has gone today. The levels have gone. Span of control, we used to have 5 span of control, meet the doctor 3 times, 4 times when Rahul was here. Now the days are gone. 4 times meeting a doctor in a month is impossible. We have to talk of digital, we have to talk of physical and digital combination in the commercial organization, in manufacturing organization. You don't have people coming every time. There's attendance loss. We are working on automation, minimum contact. The processes are automized. Quality control. Everything is interconnected. Previously, we used to operate in silos. So fundamental changes in the organization. In fact, with McKinsey, we have set up a goal in manufacturing organization that you will operate with 80% of the staff and get 100% efficiency with 80% of the cost. Now, how do you do it? You have to get to automation. You have to get to realignment of roles and teams. You have to get to reskilling. You have to get to upskilling. You have to get to autonomous systems. So whether it is manufacturing organization, whether it is quality organizations, whether it is commercial organization, whether it is corporate services, because that is what are the roles which will exist, what are the roles which will not exist, right? Work from home, how do you manage that the cyber security parameters are taken of the employees? How do you know that they have got systems which are in place to make it happen? So it's a subject by itself, which IPA has done phenomenal amount of work in this country, and which is a benchmark work in this country, which is a showcase to the world, what we are doing at IPA, and it is also a part of the case study with IIM Ahmedabad. I will stop here and then maybe get on to the questions. Yes, over to you.
Yeah, Mr. Singh, you mentioned in your initial observation, you mentioned about repurposing of drugs. In repurposing of drugs also, R&D plays an important role. And eventually, people management also plays an important role. As Mr. Jain was mentioning, with how do you cope up with the new situation which you are getting to see now? If people are not coming, you have to use automation, you have to use so many other digital technologies to get things done. So what are the pharmaceutical companies doing at this point in time? If you could throw some light on that.
Yeah, Ritvik, I think I am talking right now from my office. So I think nothing can be better example than what I'm going to talk about. Jan Saab spoke about the kind of initiatives taken by IPA level, and the top CEOs are interacting every day of healthcare. I agree what he said it, because it's a concern today. The reason being why I'm saying, unlike other industry, pharmaceutical is a people-driven industry, which cannot be replaced by machine, which cannot be replaced by technology. So our myth, let me put as a myth, or maybe perception. This cannot be replaced by an automation. I'll tell you why. Jans have used a word called phygital, very right word he used. Physical and digital, like Rahul spoke so nice about when there's a problem, you need to work on solution. And early signs, if you are proactive, you can come with a better solution and manage the damage control. And same what Abhishek was trying to bring those elements. I'll come on that also. But the point what I'm trying to say, healthcare, when you talk about pharmaceutical, you cannot replace physical, not possible. The reason being I'm telling you, there are drug policy. We cannot allow to advertise our product through media, either digital media or through electronic media or through social media. We can't. So if you have to reach out in order to, put forward your points to your customer, physical is going to always take the lead. But COVID has forced you, when you are pushed to the wall, what will you do? You can't keep quiet and sit idle. You'll try to find out some hole, some door. And I think all of us, all healthcare professionals, especially I'm talking about pharmaceutical colleagues, we have to work from home. It is possible for, IT companies, it is possible for them to really perform 100%. But I don't think it is possible for pharmaceutical company. On machine, the man has to work until unless it's gone for automation. And in India, we have not reached to that kind of robotic automation where one man can take care of the 50% of your production. So you need to have, like in my factory, there are close to 3,000 people working. And let me put very practical point to you, all of you. We lost few of our employees. Because without the employees, I cannot run and produce the medicines. And as a responsible company, we just can't stop production and say, fine, let people die and let's save our life. No, that's called selfish approach. When you talk about looking after the people of this country and the world, you have to really sacrifice somewhere. And of course, you have to have a different approach. If I have to tell all of you, vaccine is available of COVID. I'm making a statement. Vaccine is available of COVID. What are those? Social distancing, proper mask, hand sanitization. If you properly do it, vaccine is available. But of course, we Indians, or worldwide in fact, that discipline is not practiced. And that is why we talk about, let's take a dose of vaccine that will take care of me so I can fly high, I can freely move. But the question comes, managing business of ours. Yes, the entire field force were locked at home for 4 months, as far as Cadila Pharmaceutical is concerned. And we just resumed our working on 6th of June only. I'm sorry, 6th of July. But still we have to see that I should produce the product and I should reach out to the people who really need it. So their supply chain has played a major role, supply chain. And there, in fact, Jansa was rightly mentioning, in fact, he was trying to say that problem faced by the cold chain products, where the truckers are not available, even trucks is available, drivers are not really taking the risk to take the vehicle. And during those 1.5 months, 2 months, in fact, it was a tough time, though we are producing drugs, but we are not able to reach out to the people. But in short, in fact, that also, see, again, digitally, you can't reach stocks to the people. Again, you have a physical, mechanism has to be in place. So I personally feel that technology is certainly going to play a role as far as communicating to the patient, communicating to the doctor, of course, you can talk about through app. Doctor to patient, yes, there are possibility. We talked about virtual clinic. That's what telemedicine we talked about long time back. Usage was 1% of telemedicine. And today, because of COVID, I think more than 15 to 20% of medical practitioners, I'm talking about those consultants, top level consultants, they have switched over. They have shifted to maintaining this physical distancing, because patient also don't want to go to the hospital and doctor also don't want to see the patient. In fact, it was mutual consent from both. But before COVID, there was no mutual consent. Even patient want to reach out to the doctor digitally, but doctor don't believe in digital. He believe, let me uska nabj pakre, let me check the pulse rate, let me put the stethos on the chest, then only I can make the treatment. But today, COVID forced them to think alternative. And I think the change is seen. And I personally feel that the change which has come, like virtual clinic has come and it is in talk. E-pharmacy is talked about, which was there. And still there is a fight going on, which Jan Saab knows about it, that AIOCD is still not going to give permission e-pharmacy freely to function in our country. App for patient education, which Rahul was trying to talk about. He was also trying to talk about that, if you have a proper software and that software is going to be used properly, there has to be an agreement from both the users and service providers. And all these changes is being seen here. Like I'll give you demonetization, I'll take you back. Paytm became hero. Paytm came to the limelight, like
Demonetization.
come to the limelight. So every situation create an opportunity also, truly speaking. But at the same time, you need to have some option, but completely you cannot replace the physical interference of pharma marketing. Of course, I'm talking about India. Maybe in days to come, it is going to change. Maybe change. It's going to change. It has to change. Because today's youngsters, either patient or doctor, both have born with Ola, Uber, Oyo, Swiggy, Comfort. Aggregators. And these aggregators was not being seen to that extent in healthcare, in pharmaceutical. COVID has helped us to create a platform and provide a similar aggregator platform like what Swiggy is providing, your urban club. Imagine the kind of changes happening during this lockdown period when the salons were closed. People invited the urban club people with proper mask, PP kit, sanitizer, and they have had a good massage
at home.
So the point what I'm trying to say that it's going to take time, but yes, change have started. Change have started at both the level, at the patient level, because patient don't want to go to the doctor in the hospital. And at the same time, if I'm digitally being taken care by the doctor, there are two benefits for me. One, my cost, traveling cost. Second, my waiting time. And third, I think I'm free from COVID infection. So I'm sure in days to come, changes will happen in even pharmaceutical. But yes, as of today, doctors are not meeting pharmaceutical medical reps. But 50% still people are meeting. 50% still they are meeting. It is not 100% decided not to meet them. And these are the changes which is going to force us to think alternative way of reaching out to healthcare providers and to the patient. And there are a few things which is going to be constant. Physical transportation of the drug has to happen with the truckers. There is no going to be technology can shift. And I think we have to live with this. And as far as R&D is concerned, I fully agree. Like Rahul was talking about, when you talk about the trials, how to manage the patient. Yes, these are the, departments can be benefited fully, maybe fully, as far as data crunching, data sifting, and trial conduct is concerned. And I personally feel that this COVID has really pushed us very hard to all, old pharma marketer like us. Jain Saab can say so now that you have to think very differently. If you don't change, survival is going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. So for survival, even healthcare is forced and pushed to think of digital, but it is not going to be 100%. But I personally feel at least 50% there is going to be transformation from digital, physical to digital, and that's called physical. So that's what is my view as far as managing business at this COVID situation.
Who better than Rahul to take any questions on physical? Physical is like a hybrid model, half physical and half digital. So, but the question that comes to my mind is that Mr. Singh has, whatever he said was actually fascinating listening to Mr. Singh.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, traditionally pharmaceuticals companies' point of contact were medical representatives who used to go to the doctor, and this level of awareness used to be created through them. Now, if we are using digital technologies, for instance, anything which is available on digital platform is not like Holy Bible. As we know, there are fake stories, fake observations, everything. I mean, there are more fakes than actual genuine information. So how to strike a balance between physical and digital and reach a meaningful level of digital, if I may say so. Rahul.
Sure. No, thank you. And that's a very interesting question. And thank you, Mr. Jain and Mr. Singh. I think this is some great perspectives. So talking about phygital, right? I think it's a very interesting perspective. There are three things. One is your typical digital and technologies, right? So I always say digital is an enabler to the transformation, to the business, and it really complements, right? Uh, like Dr. Singh has said, is as well as how digital is a complementer, but physical will never go away. But the second kind of initiatives are called digital transformation initiatives. And it has been a very abused word. Everybody say that every initiative is a transformation initiative. I think that is where I want to really call it out, because that is where the real myth is. Transformation has to be irreversible. If you are doing something because of COVID-19, and then you're going back to the old and previous process, even if you have used something digital in between, that is not a digital transformation. Just like how a butterfly transforms into or a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, and the butterfly cannot become caterpillar back, right? That is a transformation. The same way, it is very important to understand which aspects of business need that transformation, which aspects need some enablement, which aspect needs some big boost and support by the technology, and where phygital has to come in. I know a project which has been in public domain, um, which is about using 3D printers inside a doctor's clinic to really increase the amount of 3D printed robotics with connected with iPad, which is a physical plus digital coming together inside conferences, inside doctor's clinic, to increase the amount of ethical education, to train somebody about a certain kind of physiotherapy. That's a true phygital example how physical digital works together and really helps the eventually the kind of salespeople around it. But let me take a step back, right? I mean, if you look at again this physical perspective, there are three key things which has happened. Number one, the demand of healthcare services has increased overnight, as rightly said, right, about demonetization and Paytm coming in. Second is the amount of patient activity has increased a lot. So patients also are looking forward for different people and stakeholders about what they can offer them. And third is the demand for the new healthcare capabilities have increased immensely. And that is where things are happening. I'll tell you, in UK, there is a company called Behold.ai, which actually have announced an algorithm which basically sees the abnormality in the chest x-rays, especially in the COVID-19 times. So something which would take a real person eye, I mean, of course, it is not going away. It is like the real radiologists, they're not going away. But this technology is going to help them to really identify and use AI on something just to make their decisions a bit faster, to spot the right way where the anomalies is kind of coming in, right? I know in Australia, there is a diagnostic tool which is being offered free of charge, which is all about the lung CT scan and the diagnostic accuracy. So this phygital new initiatives are actually being used for providing real-time feedback. It is helping you improve accuracy. It is helping you identify where the errors were kind of being made. You know, I'll give you a nice example about phygital as well. I know that in Thailand, there are some ninja robots which have been established. They are basically helping patients do a virtual consultation going inside an ICU. So there are a lot of places where just typical measurements have to be taken, and these robots are actually going and taking patients' temperature, and there's a lot of innovation trying to happen. You know, a nice thing as well is there is a lot of robotic innovation happening to sanitize the clinics, to sanitize those conference areas, to sanitize something, and that is where we never thought robotics will be used to sanitize by using UV light or by using different kind of sanitizers. There's a lot of camera detection techniques which is now coming in. There's a nice technology you can see called care.ai, which basically is using a lot of camera embedded devices which figures out a person's facial attributes. If a person is sweating, is there a discoloration happening to the data while they're doing a thermal scan, so they can more accurately predict the importance of or the existence of COVID-19 as a virus, than just saying, okay, your temperature is 99.7. So there's a lot of things happening, right? I mean, Phygital has also improved in terms of, if somebody on a real doctor really uses a technology to not just do virtual consultation, but if digital is helping you improve 24/7 live chat access, it is helping you reduce the wait time, it is helping you improve the hospital referrals, it is helping you to daily log your symptoms and guide you based upon what patients like you are doing. That is just insane and amazing. I can go on and on, talk about this, amazing innovation kind of happening. There's a lot of innovation happening in the diagnostic field, in the robotic field, in the thermal scanning field, and that is just amazing. But again, I have to tell you, not everything is transformation. Not everything is permanent. There are a lot of innovations happening. Some will completely transform the way so that it is irreversible change and you can never go back. While some are just enablers of the tools, and some will just enable you kind of go and do things around it. But again, a key perspective is, while all this is happening, what is your focus on people? What is your focus on cyber security? And what is your focus on doing things at scale? It's very good to do some amazing shiny object in just one location. But if you're not able to scale that across a country, a region, or globally, then that again becomes just a shiny project, not a real transformation project around it. So yeah, those are some perspective I have on phygital, digital, and the transformation side of it. Remember, it has to be irreversible. Otherwise, it is not transformation.
But most of these digital or physical transformation innovations which are coming up are from non-traditional entrants into the pharmaceutical space. So on one hand, you need to, marry or have a hybrid model between physical and digital, and on the other, you need to strike a balance between these non-traditional players and the traditional pharma players, because non-traditional players may be very good and strong at their own domain knowledge, which is technology, but may be lacking pharmaceutical knowledges. So how to marry the two?
Yeah, and I would just say that there are two perspectives, right? There is an outside in and inside out. So inside out is, what we are seeing as commercial innovation, what other companies are doing for better patient engagement, better HCPs, ethical training and education, and things around it. But we also have to look outside in, right? Which is in the inside. What is kind of happening? For example, there's a very new concept called top tier employers. Every employee will remember, after the COVID-19 scenario ends, that how did the company treated their workforce? So how is digital being used around that? Performance management. You are not live. I mean, Dr. O.P. Singh can say that he would meet hundreds of salespeople in person, in physical. And when you talk to them for the first 5 minutes, you know how the performance is. But now the focus has to be on outcomes rather than the focus has to be on output. The critical skills, how your recruiting has changed completely. I mean, previously you will meet a person, but now it's 100% has to be digital, and that requires a lot of change. I mean, something we just don't think about it. For example, when you're talking about HR doing some kind of monitoring about how outcomes are you doing, so it can help your performance appraisal, the company also needs to tell you what kind of data are they collecting from employees. So with this new technology enablement happening, there are multiple layers which are invisible. And there needs to be internal champions who really unearth those layers and make everything very transparent and ethical, so that you can only do scale and it doesn't become a siloed one-time project.
Since Mr. Jain is here, I'm tempted to ask him this question also. We have been hearing all of you, these technological innovators who are coming up almost every day. The products they are coming up with, they understandably have a stronger consumer connect, a stronger connect with the patients, because they talk of, or at least promise, empowerment of the patient, so to say. So how pharmaceutical companies should embrace these companies and whether pharmaceutical companies also need to, take one step forward towards this goal in increasing and strengthening their patient connect, consumer connect.
You are on mute, Mr. Jain. You are on mute.
Mr. Jain, you are on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I will take. This is a great question, Ritvik ji, and I will work and elaborate on what Rahul, OP Singh, and Abhishek said. Conventionally, pharma industry and many of the technology companies, they used to be from top to bottom driven and inside to outside driven because they thought that technology is the only thing which makes the difference. But today, the starting point is the customer, the starting point is the patient. And the companies which will survive in the COVID world and going forward. Patient has to be the center of everything what we do. Everyone today is talking of webinars, everyone is talking today of meetings. And today it is very easy to have this Zoom meeting. So you have meetings up till 10 o'clock in the night. You call the meetings on Saturdays, Sundays. Now, all this, unless we are sensitive to the customer and to the employees and to the needs, whatever is to work, will not make the difference. I will give an example, right? Like so that we call the concept of a patient funnel. Patient funnel is where does the patient stand as far as this therapy is concerned. So there is awareness, there is diagnosis, there is treatment, then there is a compliance and overall treatment process. Now, if the awareness is an issue, the solution will be different. If diagnosis is an issue, the solution will be different. If the treatment is there, the solution will be different. There cannot be one fit all as far as the whole thing is concerned. And there are solutions which have to be developed for a period of time, which is digital transformation, as Rahul calls it, and there are many which are digital enablement. I will give you some examples again. I used to be in Delhi 3 times in a week, right? We have realized that we don't have to go to Delhi now. We have got meetings on Zoom, start on time, 2 o'clock, get finished on time, 3 o'clock. Everyone comes on time, gets over in time. Why should we go to Delhi? I used to visit, say, US with US FDA office 3 times in a year. If I want to have US FDA meeting today, I just fix the appointment with them. The meeting starts and the meeting ends and the minutes are taken in. If we have field force meetings, reviews, there will be no need of those. So those will be transformed. We used to have doctors meeting, OP Singh will know. Traveling, everyone is meeting, dinner, lunch, all those will get over. But at the end of the day, there are some places where it is important, right? At all the places, it will not happen that particular way. So what this COVID thing has done is a catalyst for change. And there are certain things which we should continue. And we should think as an organization that even post-COVID, we will continue with certain things. Take the example of drug approvals today. We are talking of vaccine development, which used to take 10 years' time. We are trying to shorten the process. Approval processes, single point approvals, regulatory authorities in Delhi, if I go today, there will be multiple channels which will get. I will keep on roaming from one department to another. Single point of contact, the whole approval process will get shortened. And everyone knows that it is important for the country. If they don't do it, there will be patients which will die. There have to be solutions which have to be found out. So whether it is vaccine development, whether it is repurposed drugs, whether it is processes, meetings. So all the bureaucracy which used to be part of the system has gone away. I've never seen, if I write to the Secretary Government of India, send some mail, even now he will reply back before the end of the day. Never happened in the history. Never happened in the history, right? If I say that there is a problem in Sikkim, he will talk to the Chief Secretary. So there is digital enablement, there is a process, because the whole system is working in a way which is trying to find a solution, and we need to keep on learning from it and moving forward. Whether it is patient, whether it is government, so whether it is society, all the solutions will emerge, which will keep patient at the center of everything, as you rightly said, and we drive better value to the patient. And those companies which add value to the patient will survive. Those companies which don't add value to the patient and to the customer, over a period, they will start deteriorating in the game.
When you have a 3 times Limca Book of World Records holder with you, it's very difficult to tempt the registration of asking him one question. Given whatever we have learned so far, the changes which are taking place, do you think that the traditional pharma companies, they need to tweak their business plan, because the whole revenue model is getting reshaped in the wake of the advent of this digital company, their interventions, innovations, disruption? So how do you see traditional pharma companies going forward?
You are asking me?
Mr. Singh.
Singh,
Singh.
sorry. Singh is the part of the great company, so Singh will be the best person to answer this question. Yeah.
Thank you, Jan Saab. Mukherjee Saab, I am from Calcutta.
Oh, that's very good. Great.
Orthodox city.
Right.
And you have asked a very tough question to me. Had it been from Mumbai like Jan Saab, I would have given you a very fancy answer. But I would not do that, because maybe hundreds of people are listening to this conversation. Traditional way of living in India, nothing is going to change. Don't worry. I'll give an example. Everything is changed. Calcutta में आज भी taxi चलती है. Even Ola and Uber is there, but still taxi is flying.
We ambassador.
Ambassador, Hindustan ambassador. Hindustan Motor ambassador, right?
Right.
Factory বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে, but ambassador আছে.
Right.
I'm using Bengali language,
Right.
Just for bringing little interest into.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
You are very useful here.
So, oh, great, Jansa. So the point what I'm trying to say here, Rahul, youngsters, he has got a transformed life. He talked about robotic surgery. He talked about robotic, temperature measurement. He talked about robotic, clinic sanitization. All is fine. But you cannot replace the human being. Robot will be there. Similarly, in healthcare, in pharmaceutical, digitalization will happen and we'll call phygital, but physical will remain. That's not going away. Yes, because of digitalization, जैन साहब बहुत अच्छी बात कहा उन्होंने. आज मैं बॉम्बे से बैठ के दिल्ली में 3 times I used to visit to meet secretariat and drug department. Not needed. I have got an option to reach out, and my meeting is more qualitative today, actually. At low cost, there is a savings across. Savings of money, savings of time, and savings of health as well, right? You are able to give better and care. So the point is, Ritvik Saab, I would not say that it is going to be completely transformed, but yes, this digital would bring lot of better quality of treatment, better quality of life, better quality of outcome. I like Rahul's statement. Outcome-based evaluation is going to happen. Like yesterday, I was going and meeting into the Delhi or Bombay or Calcutta to my team. I have 3,000 employees deployed in the field. I have close to 5,000 employees deployed in the factories, different factories. 9,000, 10,000 people working with me. And today, overnight, if I say, no, stop, nobody will meet me, nor I'm going to meet you, I think that change will certainly take time, but it has happened in last 6 months. I'm into my room, only my secretary is allowed to enter, and he has to be fully sanitized himself. But earlier, I used to walk into the meeting room where 30 people are sitting, and I used to spend time because we felt human connect. If you meet people, if you shake hand, if you hug each one of them, that is going to give a better motivation. I think COVID has changed that style. They are saying digitally you can motivate your people. And as far as hiring is concerned, I agree with Rahul. We have put into our SOPs that hire in marketing, especially in marketing, those who has full knowledge of digital marketing. So whatever is being discussed here, all are very relevant. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the old practices will go away. That will remain. But yes, quality of life is going to improve for all. Like, let me put a perspective. There is a super specialist doctor. He's a top cardiologist in Calcutta. And there is a patient who is into Jhargram, Midnapur. I'm giving a local example. He would not able to afford to come every time to SSKM hospital and get treated by Dr. Kaur or Dr. Manotos Panja. He will not able to do that. But today, because of this digitalization, in fact, and awareness, the patient can get the best treatment from the best doctor available in the country. I think that's a big change. And that's the biggest transformation which is going to happen in our country and worldwide. Let's talk my country, because we are still believe more in physical, less in digital. And that is the point why I'm saying today that purely in pharmaceutical, change will happen, but 50% change will happen. It is going to be 50-50 ratio. And I'll give the last example, which will make everybody very easy. There was a restaurant, say Armenia, biryani restaurant in Calcutta, Armenia. We used to go and eat. I am not feeling today to go out. Armenia will come to my home through Swiggy.
Right.
Now, Armenia is the #1 restaurant as far as biryani is concerned, the best quality of biryani. If Armenia don't change, then Armenia will not remain Armenia. It will be like Hindustan Motor. It will close. Innovation, you have to adapt. So people need to have both digital and physical. Those restaurants are having today digital and physical both. They are growing more than 15% than the normal growth has happened. So the point what I'm trying to bring to the group here and the people, those are listeners, that transformation has to happen and it will happen. And you have to adapt. You have to adapt. Irrespective of how old you are, age is not going to determine. It's the situation. With that, you have to live. And then only you can grow and you can survive. If you don't grow with the situation, then you are going to be obsolete. Even robot will not help you. So in short, old system will exist, but you have to have adaptability to acquire a newer way, which may not be 100%, but I personally feel in pharmaceutical marketing, 50% is going to be digitalization and 50% going to be physical and 50% digital. And that combination can be only called in pharmaceutical, physical, not in IT. IT, no physical, only digital. But in pharma, physical, no digital. That's the point I would like to put across to understand.
It's like on one hand, you're saying old habits die hard. And on another hand, you're saying that change is the only constant thing. So we need to embrace changes, but we must know how to take or embrace the best of both the worlds, from the old world, traditional world, at the same time, the emerging world. So with this, I would like to go to Abhishek, because these emerging technology companies emerging, which are getting increasingly merged with technological innovations in pharmaceutical space also. So one impact would be that the entire process will be faster, very fast, very quick. So do you see any other impacts that will that the pharmaceutical industry or the healthcare sector in general will have as a result of this marriage of technology innovators and innovative developments taking place in pharma space?
Abhishek is on mute.
That's actually called shagun these days. If you do a WebEx or a meeting without somebody being on mute, it doesn't become productive. So
Productive.
thank you for doing this.
So yeah, what I understand, see again, it is not about pharmaceutical industry or healthcare industry. I would say in general, right? I think at the end of the day, also this whole discussion is pointing to one single big trend, that at the end of the day, most important thing is people transformation, right? And people transformation cannot happen overnight. I'll give you an example. In 2000, right, when I was a student and I was just finishing my master's, I came to India for 3 months in between. Right, and I found that everywhere it's hoarding of like .coms, and when I went from India, there was nothing called .com. I was one of the only few people who used to work in the digital industry, and when I came back, it was all like .com hoardings all over. The newspaper, 4-5 pages were all .com ads, and everyone was saying that the whole world is changing. The whole world has changed. All education will be online, food will be online, everything will be online, and it didn't resonated well with me. And I had a feeling that it's not going to go down well. Primary reason is that because people take time to change. Right? Until and unless there is a compelling reason for people to change overnight. And there was no compelling reason at that time. And therefore, we came back to normal very, very quickly, because for people to change, the habits and our mindset that has been created over decades, right, and over generations cannot change within days. Until and unless we have to adapt for. And I think the current situation that we are seeing is a much bigger technological change for any industry and every industry than even the .com bubble that took place. Because here we have a compelling reason to change. And the compelling reason is, and that is why we all are transformed to some extent. But are we really transformed? And I would like to address what Rahul said. We may not be necessarily transformed. Because it is very commonly said that to create a habit, you need to do the same thing for 21 days without missing. So we have all done that. So today we have adapted a new habit. But have we really adapted it for long term? Because when things get relaxed, we may again go back to the old habit, because that habit may look more nicer to us, more comfortable to us, because of our old brain kicking in. So we have an old brain which kicks in old habits, and it says, I think this is much comfortable. If I meet Rahul face to face, that will be over a cup of coffee. That's much, much better. So I can wait for that meeting for a year rather than I ping Rahul that, let's have a WebEx or let's have a Zoom call. So those habits may come back again. So that's why I'm saying that there will be certain habits that will roll back. There will be certain habits which will go ahead. And again, it will be differing from people to people. Now, organizations who want to really transform themselves have to see that how can they transform their people so that their mindset and their habits don't roll back. Because this rollback has to happen. We can't stop it. Again, it's human behavior. Because the compelling reason would be gone. Once the vaccine is out, within 3 months, 6 months, this compelling reason will be gone. So I would say enterprises and companies and management should take advantage of this and try to create those habits which are actually much awaited, much wanted, and has happened finally, and try to imbibe it in the process and the culture of the company. Right? So for example, today a doctor is very comfortable advising you on WhatsApp. Can you imagine this 6 months back? No. Today, a pharmacy who is so picky about having a prescription in his hand, right, is happy to deliver medicine with a WhatsApp image. In a WhatsApp image of the medicine, you send it to them and they are happy to come and deliver medicine at your doorstep. 1 year back, you can't think of this, right? So I think there has been a major, I would say, possible transformation, but our responsibility as leaders is to ensure that a lot of things don't roll back and we continue to evolve on top of it. So for example, why can't so see, you have so many MRs are going in the market. Why can't they adapt to remote selling? Indian software industry has adapted to remote selling for years. They have been sitting in India, connecting with clients all over the world, pitching them, showing them demos and showing them products, and then selling them everything remotely. So why can't the MRs eventually, in future, I'm not saying tomorrow it will happen, but this is a direction that companies can look into. Can they learn about remote selling? Can they adapt remote selling? Can they use remote selling? And I think this is eventually going to happen. Right? People will adapt to it. It may take time. Now, when this adaptation is going to be there, I mean, there's a two-way thing, right? Maybe your sales force has adapted to it, but the doctors may not have adapted to it. So it's not going to work because it's a two-way thing. So there are challenges and there is no black and white. The whole world is working in gray. So we are no exception here. Second thing that I would like to highlight here also from the technology angle is I think there is a very hyped word in this world which is going on right now, which is called artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's an overhyped word. In fact, I see lots of companies from all sectors. They in fact use this term even for a simple report that was generated even 20 years back using Fox Pro. They still call it artificial intelligence. It's not artificial intelligence. And first of all, we are overhyping the word artificial intelligence. Second is that we are not even putting it in the right context. In a country like India, artificial intelligence cannot be used to automate everything and human beings being totally removed. Because first of all, it is not practical. Because there are a lot of emotional quotient related aspects which are important in almost every process. I still remember I was talking after a demo in a particular hospital for one of the products, and they were very particular that you can detect what is the condition of the machinery, but I don't want you to switch on or switch off my air conditioning plant automatically. We run a hospital. What happens if you switch off the air conditioning plant by mistake? Once in a 1 million mistake happens, and because of your switching it off, a patient dies. So I think human intervention will remain. And therefore, artificial intelligence in Indian context should be taken as assisted intelligence rather than artificial intelligence, where human being is playing a role of coming in and bringing in the emotional quotient along with whatever is being done. So I think at the end of the day, we have to look the entire technology industry relationship, from a lens of humanity and not just purely from a lens of what is the possibility. The possibilities are endless. The practical the practical part of it, which is actually implementable and acceptable, is much lower, at a much lower level compared to what is the possibilities which are there. So these are like my some of my thoughts, and I'm sure Jain ji and Singh ji and Avasthy ji will have lots of ideas on top of it.
It has actually been a truly scintillating and fascinating discussion so far. Jain, would you like to take some questions? Because I see plenty of questions from the viewers, audience.
If I may, I just want to add this one point to Dr. O.P. Singh said, right?
Yeah, sure.
It may happen that the new technologies may sound very fascinating. It may happen that it is not very India focused, and something, the reality in Kolkata is very different. But we have to understand one thing, right? First of all, there will never be a 50-50. There will always be 100 and 100. Right? So there will always be a layer of physical, which will always be the front facing. And then how digital enables that, sometime to just enable, sometime to just transform. I'll give you an example. When I joined the healthcare sector, I think the first 6 months, I only did sales calls. And I went with field. And then every month I made a routine to get out of the digital work that I do and actually go on the field. One thing I realized is the first line of defense for any patient in any tier 2 or tier 3 market is not the doctor. A very typical rural scenario is the nukkad chemist. But so far, I think we all need to understand there has to be a collective effort in making that first line of defense more robust. We are not doing any kind of adherence, medical adherence out there. It's not just about collecting data, but it's about how can that point become more education. Now, I understand that it's very heavy. The person has to sell something every second to really make money. The margins are low and things around it. But there are ways, but there are absolutely ways which can be done, which is by using the right, and the technology medium doesn't have to be a robotic or artificial intelligence. It can be as small as having a group which just talks about something which a licensed pharmacist can really talk about and talk to their own community, which they can come and talk about it. I think that has been collectively missed. Telehealth, I think it was very nicely mentioned previously in the panel as well. There is a void which is getting created because some people cannot just go because they are doing isolation. They are in quarantine. And telehealth has to fill the gap. So I think there is a slow, gradual move, but we have to acknowledge. It is like we have to acknowledge that, previously, so what happened was when Google came up with the translation AI, everybody said that the translator's job will go away. But stats have proved that the translator job in the world has increased because the technology has not completely replaced the translator, but it's just an augmentation on how translators can do more things. Now, people are able to translate more with the use of tools. The cost has gone lower. Because the costs have gone lower because of digital and technology, the scale has gone up. So we have to understand if you only stick to the physical only way, we will never be able to scale because the cost will always be stagnant. How can we use digital to reduce the cost per initiative, per touch point, so we can really go out and do at scale? And that's why it will always be 100 and 100. There's a lot of development, and that's why again when I say that, from a cardiologist perspective or a radiologist perspective, when AI is coming and helping and telling them that where the anomalies are, it is just like translation by Google helping translators, which will increase more jobs for radiology, because now patients can get faster X-ray understanding, faster MRI understanding, faster CT scan understanding. Another key thing I think where this new technology is making effect, which physical was not able to do, is accessibility and mental health. Accessibility is people with special needs, somebody who is visually impaired, who wants to get access to education of healthcare, somebody who is colorblind, who has cataract, who has blurred vision, who has motor skills, who has epilepsy, who can't see flashy website with a lot of animations, right? This is again where we are seeing that the digital is making the grassroots difference, which was not available kind of before. And I think lastly, on the mental health, a very taboo topic, which people will not talk generally to their doctors or even to their pharmacists, people are relying towards digital to at least talk about it, get some help, so that they can get a headway before they can kind of go and move ahead. So we always have to understand that, the world is evolving. We have to acknowledge that. We have to complement and strengthen our physical layer by that right pillars of the technology. And I think that is where the main difference is happening, and I think will kind of continue to evolve. So yeah, I just wanted to go back on that point, and thank you for sharing that, Mr. Jain, OP Singh, and Abhishek. I think some great, excellent points in terms of how technology and the enablers kind of happening and changing the fashion of healthcare.
Since you have touched upon these and raised this issue, although we are well run out of time, I'd just like to ask Mr. Jain. Rahul has mentioned about these touch points and back-end infrastructure to facilitate these digital enablers. Is the Indian pharma sector gearing up to embrace those or build those touch points, those back-end infrastructures? At what stage does India stand vis-a-vis other developing countries in this regard?
Mr. Jain is in mute mode, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Yeah.
At this moment, as we talk now, the way the Indian pharma industry, because we think any adversity is the biggest opportunity, and it helps you to look at every system in a new way, and you see the results which are being shown and the results which is likely to be shown by the Indian pharma industry. We realize that there are processes where digitalization will take place: internal processes, external processes, healthcare processes, right? But we also realize that human being is a social animal, right? Social interaction is a essential part of human being. If everyone I ask 5 months, he's fed up, right? You want to meet. And that is what has happened in China. The moment it opened up, people thronged to the restaurants. Everywhere you will like to find the answer. So there are issues, and as OP Singh is rightly emphasizing with his tremendous experience on the ground, and Rahul also said, and Abhishek highlighted it, that it has to be combination of where digital can make difference, which is enduring, and where digital, and he rightly defined artificial intelligence as assisted intelligence. It will help to have better adoption of the whole thing. We have been talking about major transformation, and maybe we will see in a year's time. Is e-pharmacy the answer?
Yes.
Certainly not, because it loses that human touch. But if you make your next door pharmacy digitally enabled, they can play much more fundamental role to transform healthcare. If we can enable our general practitioner with technology, they can play much more fundamental role as far as transformation is concerned. Government has come with National Digital Mission, And we will see a lot happening where we will see the combination of digital and physical to make fundamental difference to improve access of healthcare and to improve quality of healthcare. And the way I look at it is my mission is that whatever we can do that help, because access of healthcare, access of quality healthcare has been one of the biggest issues. So can we combine both this to meet this unmet need in this country?
Wonderful. Jain, would you like to take some questions from?
Before we take on the questions, I would like to join and request Mr. Abhinath Roy Chaudhary to join as a panelist. I'll just move him to the panelist, and we'll also recognize his efforts. Just to introduce Mr. Deepnath Roy Chaudhary, he is an MD at Stansberg Pharmaceuticals Limited, a WHO GMP certified formulation manufacturer engaged in ethical marketing. And he's been an active member of Indian Drug Manufacturers Association for the last several years, and has also served in the capacity of the immediate past national president of IDMA. Mr. Deepnath, would you like to add something as per the discussion that we had today? If you can hear us, Mr. Deepnath, if you can unmute yourself.
It's so good to have you, sir. Deepnath ji, so good to have you.
Good evening, everybody. Colleague Mr. Sudarshan Jain, right of my industry for many, many years. Mr. O.P. Singh, Mr. Rahul Avasthy, Mr. Abhishek Rungta, and the moderator, Mr. Ritwik Mukherjee. I am a very proud member of the Indian pharmaceutical industry. I am proud to be a member of the Indian pharmaceutical industry, which has indeed brought a lot of laurels and pride to the country. As Mr. Jain has said, we are proud to be addressed as the pharmacy of the world. And we are the third largest manufacturers in the world. A lot of statistics. We have the highest number of US FDA plants outside the US in the entire world. We filed the highest number of ANDAs. So the list can go on. And every member of the Indian pharmaceutical industry is indeed proud to be a part of this industry. And the industry has served the nation well. It has served the entire world very well. And I am quite sure we have faced the challenges, and India will continue to serve citizens across the globe. It has done so during these challenging times, and our flag will fly higher in the days to come. As far as physical, digital, and phygital is concerned, we have experts who have already spoken on it. So we have statistics which say during the last 2 months, doctors have gone digital to the extent of 25%. They are physical still to the tune of 50%. And they are phygital, a combination of both, to the tune of another 25%. But I would rather feel, or we have had discussions, many webinars where Mr. Jain has also been there. A digital transformation in pharma marketing is going to be somewhat of a reality. As Rahul said, transformation is transformation only when it is irreversible. So to some extent, as Mr. O.P. Singh, with his vast experience in the field, has suggested, the Indian scenario is slightly typical, but digital touch points will become a reality. The doctor is in the center. He will be digitally in touch with his patients to manage them. Pharma industries will be in touch with the doctor through the digital medium. So whatever happens to the pharma industry, the doctor or the patient, digital enterprises like Abhishek Rungta's have reason to be happy. So digital enterprises have reasons to be happy because they'll have more people to serve, more industries to serve, and it is there to stay. Thank you very much. I enjoyed the session. I enjoyed the session very much. We are all learning. We are all learning. Whether it is small, medium, or big, we are all learning. And Indian pharma industry will cope up with the challenges. I think the smallest players are having more of a difficult time.
Yeah.
They are having a tough time. Let's see how things evolve. But we have served the nation and the globe well and will continue to do so. Mr. Sudarshan Jain would be able to highlight that better as he has done.
He did it.
That's true. That's true.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. Ritikda, I think we have already run out of time and we have hardly 3 minutes the scheduled time. So we'll just play a small little video in order to thank all these individuals. And after that, if there are any concluding remarks, we can put that as per your understanding. Okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Great. Also, we have some certificates which would be shared with you. I can definitely, since out of time, we have not been able to share it across before the event, but we will definitely be sharing it across to all our panelists, and even to Rahul, we'll try to send it across to you as well. So that would be there. Over to you, Ritvika, and then we can close the session for the day.
Be very precise. I think we could have might as well name this whole session as pharma.com. So just taking a cue from what Abhishek Rungta has said, that during .com period he may have experienced a different thing altogether, but traditionally you grew up learning that dot is like a full stop where matter ends. But .com has given us the belief that once you say .com, it marks the beginning of, or it opens a new vistas, new avenue. So I think today's discussion has definitely opened up new vistas, new avenues, and a lot of food for thoughts. So with that, and particularly all these experienced persons who have given their insights into the sector and portraying such a positive picture of the Indian pharmaceuticals industry, I'm sure we can look up to a very bright future insofar as Indian pharmaceuticals and healthcare industry is concerned. Thank you all very, very much. I'm sure we'll catch up very soon on some other occasions.
Thank you,
Thank
Ritvik.
you,
And
everyone. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Dhanyavad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
And